Hello, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or, of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel, that is Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me from the Smith Center in Chapel Hill, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ just saw the Tar Heels drop a game to Pittsburgh, 76-67. That scoreline may even be a little bit closer than the game was. I know Carolina made some strides and cut it close in the second half. I believe they got it down to 6 at one point, but this was a game in which Pitt was in control for a majority of, particularly in that first half. And we'll kind of hit on that first half is the first thing I really want to talk about, more in particular, the start of the first half, because we've been on, we do 3 things after every game. We've been on a few this season, a handful this season, probably, I guess, close to 8 now, where we've kind of come on and talked about the same things. Carolina not ready to play. Carolina comes out not hitting shots, and their opponents kind of come out the opposite, come out fired up, come out ready to play, and they come out hitting shots. A lot of it has to do with Carolina's poor defense. I think we saw that again to start today, but just a case once again of Carolina not being ready. It's a theme of this team. It's who they are at this point. It's February 16th. They're doing it against, one of the, I know they've won 3 straight now, but one of the worst teams in the ACC. Let's not, make any mistakes about it. This is not a good Pittsburgh team. So overall, it was a game in which Carolina started poorly, ended up losing the game. And, like I said, it's not the first time we've seen that this season.
No, this is the 8th loss and the 7th time that this performance had similar symptoms. The Purdue game, they played hard, played well, lost to a club that could win the national title. All right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Tennessee, Kentucky, Notre Dame. What they have after that? Miami, Wake Forest, Duke, and here. I think that they were kind of ready at Wake, but they didn't handle the punch. They were ready for Duke, I think, but didn't handle the punch. They got punched tonight. Leak even said they didn't punch back, or maybe Caleb said it. So I think readiness. If you read my 5 keys before the game, first thing I said was got to be ready. And I said, this club does not have much room for error. This is not a team that rolls dudes down on the floor that I call screw you players that say, hey, we suck tonight. The other team is kicking our butt. So screw you to the other team. And guys, climb on board. I'm going to lead us to the win. They don't have anybody like that. Caleb had an incredible stretch there for 4 minutes, but it was too little too late. And Pitt was going to let him drive. I mean, not let him drive, but they were much more content with Caleb driving than with Kerwin shooting threes at that point, because there's a couple of threes that Kerwin hit. Hubert tells us that Kerwin's on the scouting report now. He was, and then he hit a couple, and Pitt's like, holy crap, we got to go out and defend him. There was one point in transition where they went out and someone was on Kerwin. The ball was still at the free throw line on the other end. Transition was just beginning. So, Caleb had that stretch, but he's not that kind of player yet. He might be one day, but he isn't right now. They don't have anybody like that. And their ACC Player of the Year candidate was on the bench the last 7.5 minutes. Wasn't really conducive to him maybe being out there, but the whole point is that they put themselves in that situation. The readiness is a big issue. Leakey said that tonight. It's a huge issue. He doesn't understand it. He said in that quote, it doesn't make sense, end quote. And it doesn't. This is the fault of everybody in the program. It begins with the head coach, and then it's the assistant coaches, and then it's all the players. I don't understand how a team that has been embarrassed in the manner this club's been embarrassed, as much as it's been embarrassed, would actually not be ready to play in a conference game.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe, yeah.
And I'm going to give Josh Graham, the ready guy in the Triad, does a fantastic job. Josh, I chatted with him on my way down here down the steps to do this podcast. And Josh said, they've had 4 20-point wins this year in league play, and they're 1-3 after those games. And the one win was an overtime win at Louisville, which has not won since and may not win again because it's in complete disarray. And it was missing its best player that night. So this club doesn't understand how to handle prosperity. Remember Mac during football season? We don't know how to handle prosperity. This team doesn't know how to. Yeah, I mean, they keep thinking that the name on their jersey matters. It
And
matters
they're
from a
telling us
historical.
that. It's what Leaky said that a few times. Yeah.
It matters from a historical standpoint. It matters when they do the pregame intro, which they have the best video leading up to starting lineups anywhere in America here. They do it amazingly well. The laundry dangling from the roof here means something. It matters. Those words across the front matter. And that's why any Carolina fans that can have enough in them to actually watch this video and listen to us and read our work and read the work at IC and the N&O and Adam Smith's brilliant work that he does as well. It's because the standard is here. It's because this means so much. It's because this is so incredibly important. And a lot of them I've already got DMs. I got DMs for Facebook, on Twitter, emails. I got text messages, people asking, why doesn't it matter as much to the players as it does to us? Now, I think it does matter to the players. It's just a lot easier to show up and be a fan for a couple hours and think about it before the game and then go home than it is to actually perform, especially when you've got people on the other side who are pretty talented that are trying to keep you from playing well. And Pitt does have some guys. But it didn't look like the Tar Heels were ready to play at all. I don't know if they scouted Pitt well or not because it didn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Because when you're not playing well, you're not good. This club is awful defensively when they're not ready. And they were horrendous defensively tonight, except when they made that run, but it was too late. Mm-hmm. Pitt came in 325th in the nation, averaging 5.4 threes a game. Panthers finished with 10. They had 6. They didn't score the first 3 minutes of the game. And with 3 minutes left in the half, they had 6 threes. So they got 6 threes in that 14-minute stretch. Carolina started out 5-0, 2 Manic buckets. Pitt outscored the Heels 40-18 the rest of the way. Look, it's one thing when Duke just turns it on and does it in here. It's another thing when a mature, talented, athletic Miami team does it. It's another thing when a Wake team playing its biggest game and out of its mind turns it on. But it's something entirely different when a team that came in here at number 179 in the NET. This was a quad 4 game. The irony, Pitt can climb up inside the top 163. This will become a quad 3 game. So Carolina may avoid getting a quad 4 loss tonight because they lost to that team, and it may leap into the top 63. It could be a quad 3 loss. Who knows? Mm. If you're not ready to play and you're not supremely gifted and you take a long time to find yourself, then you're not going to win. And we've seen this act 7 in 7 of their 8 losses. So Notre Dame is a pretty good team, but Carolina still should have won that game. They're more talented. Yeah, and Caleb said that night they didn't take him seriously. Leaky said tonight they weren't ready to play. I don't think that they respected Pitt.
No.
Pitt, Cable could end up getting fired. Heck, he might save his job the way they're playing right now. There's a lot of coaches in this league that may end up getting fired.
Yeah.
And one of them just won in this building. Remember they were 12-0 at home here. Now they're 13-2.
Yeah.
With 2 blowout losses. One to a team that can win the national championship. One to a team that, because of NC State's injuries, won't finish in last place. Mm-hmm. I don't know how else to sum it up. I don't know how else to sum that up. That angle that we've got other things to talk about, obviously, Jacob, but that angle, I mean, you're not ready to play. It's on you. It's on everybody in the program.
Yeah, 100%.
Everyone, and Hubert tonight, I asked him the first question about what transpired out there. I didn't want to just ask the canned answer because you get a canned response. He thought about it. He wasn't happy. And the disposition was anger, controlled anger. He's not going to ream us out, but he didn't want to be there talking to us. He didn't want to answer those questions. Leaky said, I'm tired of talking about it. Well, they as a group, from Hubert on down to the walk-ons, they have to figure it out and avoid this from happening again, because now what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, what this means, they put themselves in a really bad situation.
Yeah, they definitely did. I want to run through some stats real quick. Caleb Love, 19 points. 15 of those came in the second half. In the final, 5 minutes of that, he was big time down the stretch, but had a really, really quiet and poor, for lack of a better word, first half. Brady Manick, 12 points, 10 rebounds. Kerwin Walton, 11 points. All of those came in the second half as well. Leaky Black, 11 points, 6 boards. Quiet night for RJ Davis, quiet night for Armando Bacot, who, like you said, spent a lot of time towards the end of the game on the bench. I want to talk about real quickly before we move on to what does this mean. We've already kind of hit on this a little bit, but just going through some things that kind of put the game in Pitt's hands and into their advantage. Points off turnovers, 22 for Pittsburgh. I know Carolina ended up with 24 points off turnovers, but that's still big time for a Pittsburgh team against this Carolina team. I thought Pitt had a lot of wide open looks. You talked about how poor defensively Carolina was. Pitt was 10 for 17 from 3-point land, came in just shooting 33% from beyond the arc. So you're looking at all these stats right here. Also 18 for 20 on the free throw line. This has been over recent weeks, especially down the stretch, a good free throw shooting team. This wasn't an anomaly by any means, but 18 for 20 from the free throw line down the stretch for Pittsburgh as well, which really ended up in helping them ice this game. But just looking at some of those stats, and, also shot 51% for the game and 41% for Carolina. So just looking at those stats, and, not really a surprise that Pitt was able to not necessarily win comfortably, but for the most part, for a majority of the game, handled the game pretty comfortably and, end up getting the 10-point win.
Remember when Carolina gave up, I think it was 54 points off turnovers in the losses at Miami or 51, the losses at Miami and Wake. Well, they gave up 20 and they were, when the Tar Heels lose, they usually give up like twice the number of points off turnovers that they have turnovers, meaning they turn it over and team score. Okay. So in the first half, Carolina had 10 turnovers. Pitt had 20 points off turnovers. In the first half, it was 20-9 in points off turnovers. Carolina had 9 offensive rebounds in the first half, had 2 second chance points. There it is right there. What is that? What does that illustrate? To me, that illustrates a team that wasn't playing as hard as it needed to play. That was a team that wasn't as ready as it needed to play. Going back to the first point, that was a team that wasn't gritting it out. You got to grit to get the offensive rebounds, but you also have to grit to score. Pitt was physical. They were banging Armando from the beginning. Ask Brandon P. I told him first minute and a half of the game, watch Hughley bang Armando. Hughley's hip was better than Armando's hip a lot tonight. Yeah, and you saw that early. And, a couple times he scored early baskets because he got Armando on his hip, and he had a great pivot foot. He kept his pivot foot, was able to create a basket, create a layup for himself, but he was pushing on the other end. The lanes weren't there. Pitt was more physical, and Carolina just didn't answer stuff. So when that happens, you give up a lot of open threes because you're not dialed in. You give up a lot of drives for buckets because you're not dialed in. You give up a 4-point play to a guy who's a 14% 3-point shooter when it's 12, we get it down to 12, I think it is. And then all of a sudden there's a 4-point play and it's back to 16 when you're trying to make a run. If that doesn't occur, maybe the last minute and a half unfolds differently. We don't know. And that was Armando's 4th foul, I believe it was. And I don't think he went back in the game.
No.
The statistics with North Carolina this year, you can just predict what they're going to look like when the Tar Heels lose. And usually when they lose, they get pounded. And tonight, the final margin, I think, was 9, but they're down 21 in the second half.
Yeah.
They're down, 18 with 6 minutes left or whatever. So
it was in complete control.
Credit the Tar Heels for fighting back. Credit the Tar Heels for causing panic in Pitt. But a lot of that was also Pitt. I'm sure at some point those guys had to say, what the hell? We're ahead by this much? What's happening here? So a lot of that converged at a certain point. And I do think, that those traps were good. I mean, Carolina showed some good traps. Leaky on the traps, like Manic played his rear end off, especially in the second half. That steal he got, and he tossed it to Caleb. He just lost it. People are bashing Caleb for that. That just happens sometimes. But it happens in nights like this. It happens when you lose to Pittsburgh at home, because it wasn't just that one moment for Caleb. Those kind of moments were all over the place. Like I said, Armando fouling Hughley on a 3 when the shot clock's about to expire. It's a 4-point play. When you're not playing well and you're not dialed in, your mind's not right, and then you fall behind and you're frustrated. I thought for the first 8 minutes or so of the second half, they were trying to come back in those minutes instead of just starting to play well. You got to score. You got to score again, and you got to get some stops. And if you keep scoring and you get enough stops, next thing you know, you're in this thing. So just an awful performance.
Yeah,
in every way, shape, or form. Given the opponent, this is a club that has 6 wins in the ACC because the ACC is a train wreck this year. And I'm not going to bash Pitt. Jeff Capel, I think Jeff's a good guy. I think Jason played here. It was nice that they honored him before the game. They recognized him rather, and he gave a nice little ovation to the hand of the crowd. They got a nice ovation. All that's good stuff. But this is a really bad year for the ACC, and to lose to a team that has this club's resume and to get blown out at home the way that they were for the most part, dig themselves a hole like that. Just look at the stat lines. Just look at the stat lines and then go look at the Miami stat line and look at the Duke stat line, look at the Wake stat line, the Kentucky stat line, go on and on. It's the same. And when this club is bad, man, they're really bad. When they're good, like the other day, man, they're really good. You think, boy, I could see that club putting together and making a run. But when they're bad like this, they don't look like a club that belongs in the big tournament in the postseason. No. And they've looked like that a lot this year, Jacob.
Yeah, they definitely have. Jekyll and Hyde, I think, is a very appropriate way to kind of label this team. It's what I've seen.
Yeah. That's what somebody said. That's what I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody said that to me as I was walking over here a few minutes ago. Yeah. And I'm not going to say who it was, but that is who they are.
Yeah, I think it fits. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an inappropriate thing to say. Last thing real quickly, AJ, I want to hit on. We've hit on it a little bit, but what does this mean? Because, I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say, and it's not a shocking revelation to Carolina fans, but this was a major, major blow for Carolina's NCAA tournament resume.
Devastating. Yeah. Now, they're not done because they go to Blacksburg this weekend and they can pick up a quad 1 win. And I don't think Louisville will be an issue. Louisville's a mess, but this club was a mess a week and a half ago.
That's a good point.
One game at a time, right?
I mean, it's the only way that they can do.
My dad's a quintessential one game at a time guy. So, but we have to look ahead. What does this mean? They're in a bad. I'd be willing to bet you that they won't be in the projected fields tomorrow. And quite frankly, they don't deserve it. They're 0-7 in Q1 game. Now they have a Q4 loss. Yeah. One of the things that people were saying in defense of Carolina, with respect to who they lost to, they don't have any bad losses. I think getting run out of the building a bunch of times are bad losses, and the committee would probably discuss that, but they didn't have that embarrassing, how the heck did they lose that team loss in their resume? Now they have it, and they don't have the Q1 win. So if the fence is here and this is the tournament and this is not the tournament, they're kind of dangling over the edge on this side right now, and rightfully so. Now, there's 5 more games, and then the ACC tournaments. There's plenty of time to resurrect this thing. And the way this club's been playing, they're liable to go into Blacksburg and look great and win.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That club, it'll be the battle of 2 teams that are at going into today. We're both in the top 4 of the NET without Q1 wins. Neither one of them have one. So the Hokies get a chance to pick one. Now, that won't be one for them, but it will be for Carolina if they get one. So maybe more of an elimination game. What this means is that this club is wildly inconsistent. 26 games into the season, one could say they haven't learned a lot because they play well, they get fat and happy, and then boom, they lay an egg. And it's just a cycle that continues. So what happens when something continually happens over the course of time? How are you supposed to process it? What are you supposed to think? Well, that's who they are. Yeah, and if this is who they are the rest of the way, they're not going to get in the tournament. So even if they beat the Hokies, and let's say they beat Louisville, they could go to state and lose, right? I wouldn't put it past them with the way state
some tough games coming up. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, state shouldn't be a tough game for this team, but this team has a way of making a game tough when it doesn't need to be tough. We saw that tonight. So what this means is they're in danger of not making the NCAA tournament. They must win at least at Blacksburg or at Durham, and they're going to have to win a game or 2 in the ACC tournament, because we said before, if they somehow didn't get the Q1 win, if they just won the games they're supposed to win and got to 23, 24 wins, 25 wins, how's a committee going to be able to keep a team from power conference that many wins out? They probably would just win enough that they were going to get in. But they've changed that a little bit now. Now there's a little more pressure to pick up one of those wins. So that's what it means. It means that now it's officially okay to start, for Carolina fans, start stressing about the NCAA tournament. I didn't think that was the case. This afternoon, I didn't think that was the case. I still thought, there's a path. It's a pretty clear path. Now the path is more cluttered than it was a couple hours ago. And that's their fault. It's on them.
Yeah.
But it's also on them. It's also on them to fix it. And they have the personnel to do it. The people that are in that program are capable of fixing it. So let's see if they do.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. AJ, Carolina losing 76-67 to Pittsburgh in Chapel Hill tonight. Tough loss for the Tar Heels, tough loss for the NCAA tournament hopes. And, unfortunately from what we've seen from a lot of Carolina fans' perspective, it's nothing new based on a lot of the losses we've seen the Tar Heels come up with this season. So yeah, it's a good place to wrap this one up. Make sure you guys keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. For all your post-game content, like I said, click the link in the description below. Head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com and check us out. If you want to sign up, you can do so to be a premium member for just $8.33 a month. Great time to do so with all the stuff going on. Recruiting never stops as well. So if you want more content, access to our message boards, and just access to stuff you can't have unless you sign up, click the link in the description below and sign up for just $8.33 a month. You guys know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well so you know every single time we upload. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.